The early morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting long shadows across scattered breakfast dishes. Jasmine Reynolds moved with practiced efficiency, managing multiple tasks simultaneously. Her daughter Zara, 11 years old and already displaying her mother's analytical mind, carefully packed her science project while munching on toast. "Mom, did you check my permission slip?" Zara asked, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Jasmine smiled, sliding the signed document across the counter. "Checked and double-checked. Your marine biology field trip is all set." Her son Marcus, still groggy from sleep, shuffled into the kitchen. At 15, he was navigating the complex world of high school with a mix of teenage bravado and quiet introspection. Jasmine had always encouraged her children to be observant, to question, to understand the world around them. The morning routine was a delicate dance of timing. Jasmine taught British literature at Riverside Community College, a position she had worked tirelessly to achieve. Her doctoral research on marginalized voices in 19th century literature had been groundbreaking, earning her respect among her academic peers. After dropping the kids at their respective schools, Jasmine navigated the morning traffic. Her late-model sedan, meticulously maintained, bore the marks of countless family trips and daily commutes. The car had been a symbol of her financial independence, purchased after years of careful saving and strategic budgeting. The traffic citation had been a complete surprise. 2 weeks earlier, she had been driving home after an evening lecture, her mind still spinning with discussions about Virginia Woolf's narrative techniques. A routine traffic stop had resulted in a ticket that seemed unusually complex. The officer's demeanor had been professional but somehow distant, leaving Jasmine with an unsettling feeling she couldn't quite articulate. Her phone buzzed. A text from her brother Marcus. "Good luck today. Call me after the hearing." The courthouse loomed ahead, an imposing structure of gray stone and reflective windows. Jasmine adjusted her blazer, a deep navy blue that she had carefully selected to project both professionalism and approachability. Years of academic presentations and conference panels had taught her the power of first impressions. As she gathered her documents, the ticket, her driving record, insurance information, Jasmine took a deep breath. She had always believed in the power of preparation, of presenting facts clearly and objectively. Her academic training had taught her to approach every challenge with methodical precision. Little did she know that this ordinary morning would become anything but ordinary. The courthouse steps seemed to stretch endlessly before her. Each step was a rhythm of determination, of quiet confidence. Jasmine Reynolds carried with her not just legal documents, but generations of resilience, education, and an unshakable belief in fairness. She had no idea that the next few hours would challenge everything she understood about justice, perception, and the subtle mechanisms of systemic inequality. The municipal courtroom hummed with a quiet, bureaucratic energy. Rows of wooden benches stretched before the elevated judge's platform, filled with a mix of anxious defendants and disinterested observers. Jasmine sat near the front, her leather portfolio balanced carefully on her lap, her posture straight but not rigid. Judge Robert Hartley seemed to occupy the bench like a territorial monarch. In his early 60s, with steel-gray hair and rimless glasses, he surveyed the courtroom with an air of detached authority. File folders were arranged before him with military precision, each movement calculated and deliberate. When Jasmine's name was called, she approached the podium with the same measured confidence she brought to her university lectures. Her heels made a precise, controlled sound against the worn courtroom floor. She handed her documentation to the court clerk, who barely made eye contact. "Ms. Reynolds," Judge Hartley's voice cut through the ambient noise, "you're charged with improper lane change and failure to signal. Is this correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jasmine responded clearly. "I'd like to explain the circumstances." She began to detail the evening of the traffic stop. The road had been poorly marked, with construction signs creating confusion. Her turn signal had actually been activated, though the officer claimed otherwise. Jasmine presented her spotless driving record, 15 years without a single moving violation. Judge Hartley's expression remained unchanged. He thumbed through the documents, occasionally glancing up with a look that seemed more dismissive than attentive. "The fine," he stated flatly, "will be $750, with mandatory traffic school." Jasmine felt a sudden rush of disbelief. The amount was astronomical, nearly 10 times what she had expected. Comparable cases she had discreetly researched typically resulted in fines under $200. "Your Honor," she said, maintaining her composure, "might I inquire about the severity of this fine? My driving record shows." "The law is clear, Ms. Reynolds," Hartley interrupted, his tone sharp. "Do you wish to contest this?" The courtroom suddenly felt smaller. Jasmine was acutely aware of the other people watching, some with sympathy, others with blank indifference. Her academic training had prepared her for challenging conversations, for intellectual debates. But this felt different. This felt personal. She recognized the subtle dynamics at play. Years of research into systemic inequities had made her attuned to nuanced forms of bias. The dismissive tone, the disproportionate fine, the lack of genuine listening. Each element felt like a carefully constructed barrier. "I would like to understand the specific reasoning behind this fine," Jasmine responded, her voice calm but firm. Judge Hartley's lips tightened almost imperceptibly. He shuffled papers, avoiding direct eye contact. "The fine stands. Next case." As quickly as it had begun, her hearing was over. Jasmine gathered her documents, her mind already analyzing every moment, every interaction. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just about a traffic ticket. This was about something deeper, more systemic. Walking out of the courtroom, she felt the weight of the unexpected fine. Not just the financial burden, but the emotional toll of feeling unseen, unheard. Her brother Marcus's words echoed in her mind. "Document everything. Always." And so began Jasmine Reynolds' unexpected journey toward understanding and challenging a system that often operated in shadows of assumption and unspoken rules. The home office became Jasmine's command center. Spreadsheets illuminated her laptop screen, casting a soft glow across the room as night settled around her. Stacks of court documents surrounded her workspace, each file a potential piece of a complex puzzle. Her academic training had prepared her for rigorous research, but this investigation felt deeply personal. She began by collecting traffic court records, meticulously comparing cases from the past 2 years. Color-coded sticky notes marked patterns that slowly emerge, a complex landscape of judicial decisions that seemed to defy simple explanation. Marcus dropped by with additional resources. As a legal consultant, he had access to networks and databases that would prove invaluable. "You're building more than just a personal case," he told her, spreading out additional court documents on her dining room table. "You might be uncovering a systematic issue." Jasmine's methodology was precise. She categorized cases by multiple factors: the race of the defendant, type of violation, fine amounts, and additional penalties. Late into the night, she cross-referenced data, her academic research skills transforming personal frustration into a comprehensive investigation. The patterns were subtle but unmistakable. Defendants of color consistently received higher fines for similar infractions. Minor violations that might result in warnings for some resulted in substantial financial penalties for others. Each spreadsheet column told a story of unequal treatment. Her university colleagues had no idea about her ongoing investigation. During department meetings and lectures, she maintained her usual composed demeanor. Only her brother and closest family knew about her growing project. Technology became her ally. Online court records, public databases, and carefully filed Freedom of Information Act requests provided additional layers of information. Jasmine created a secure digital archive, backing up every piece of evidence with multiple redundancies. Most fascinating were the subtle discrepancies. It wasn't always an outright, obvious bias. Instead, it was a complex network of small decisions, a slightly higher fine here, an additional penalty there. Each deviation seemed minor in isolation, but created a significant impact when viewed collectively. Her teenage son, Marcus, noticed her late-night research sessions. "Mom," he asked one evening, "are you okay?" Jasmine smiled. "I'm doing important work. Sometimes understanding the world means looking closely at things others might miss." The investigation began to consume her free time. Weekend afternoons that might have been spent grading papers or preparing lectures now involved carefully documenting court proceedings, reaching out to local advocacy groups, and building a comprehensive narrative. She discovered unexpected allies: retired court clerks, legal researchers, community activists who had long suspected systemic irregularities but lacked the comprehensive documentation to challenge the system effectively. Each discovered pattern was like solving an intricate academic puzzle. Her background in literary analysis, understanding complex narratives, reading between the lines, proved unexpectedly valuable in this investigation. By the third week, Jasmine had transformed her initial traffic ticket frustration into a meticulously documented research project. What had begun as a personal challenge was becoming something much larger, a potential catalyst for meaningful systemic reflection. Her research was far from complete, but with each documented case, each carefully annotated record, Jasmine Reynolds was building a case that demanded attention, that challenged the status quo with the power of carefully collected evidence. The first rays of morning sunlight filtered through the kitchen window as Jasmine spread her research across the kitchen table. Marcus arrived early, a stack of legal journals tucked under his arm, coffee brewing between them. "Look at these patterns," Jasmine said, pointing to her carefully color-coded spreadsheets. Her brother leaned in, his legal expertise complementing her academic precision. Marcus Reynolds was more than just a lawyer. He was a strategic thinker who had built a reputation for taking on complex civil rights cases. Where Jasmine approached the issue with academic rigor, he brought a lawyer's tactical insight. "We need more than just numbers," Marcus advised. "We need personal stories, additional witnesses." Their first breakthrough came unexpectedly. Elena Rodriguez, a retired court clerk who had worked in the municipal courthouse for over 2 decades, reached out through a mutual professional contact. Her message was cryptic but promising. Some things need to be brought into the light. When Elena arrived at a small cafe near the university, she brought with her a lifetime of institutional knowledge. Her hands, marked by years of filing and documenting, trembled slightly as she shared her observations. "I've seen things," Elena said quietly, "patterns that most people would never notice, small decisions that add up to something much larger." She shared internal memos, subtle communication patterns, and unwritten rules that rarely made it into official documentation. Each piece of information was like a missing puzzle piece in Jasmine's growing investigation. Professor David Thompson from the university's sociology department became another unexpected ally. After Jasmine carefully presented her preliminary findings during a departmental research seminar, he recognized the potential for a broader study. "This could be more than a personal case," Thompson told her. "This might be a comprehensive examination of judicial discretion and systemic inequities." The support wasn't just professional, it was personal. Jasmine's children became inadvertent supporters. Zara, with her budding scientific mind, helped her mother organize digital files. Marcus, her teenage son, used his tech skills to create secure backup systems for the research. Community organizations began to take notice. The local Justice Collaborative, a grassroots advocacy group, saw potential in Jasmine's meticulously documented research. They offered resources, additional connections, and a platform to amplify her findings. "We've been trying to highlight these issues for years," said Renee Coleman, the organization's lead coordinator. "But concrete, documented evidence like yours, this changes everything." Late-night strategy sessions became a regular occurrence. Around Jasmine's kitchen table, a diverse group of professionals, lawyers, researchers, community activists, began to see the broader implications of her work. Each ally brought a unique perspective. The retired court clerk offered institutional memory. The sociology professor provided academic framework. Community activists brought ground-level understanding of how these systemic challenges impacted real lives. Jasmine realized this was no longer just her personal battle. It had transformed into a collaborative effort to understand and challenge systemic inequities. Her initial frustration with a traffic ticket had become something much larger, a potential catalyst for meaningful institutional reflection and change. The investigation was gaining momentum, and Jasmine Reynolds was at its center, not as a victim, but as a methodical, determined researcher committed to uncovering the truth. The first signs of pushback were subtle. A colleague's sideways glance during a faculty meeting, an unexpected pause during her performance review, whispers that seemed to follow her through university hallways. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, the department chair, called Jasmine into her office on a crisp autumn afternoon. The wood-paneled room felt suffocating, filled with academic awards and carefully curated professional memories. "Your research is interesting," Hartwell said, her tone carefully measured, "but I'm concerned about how it might be perceived." Jasmine recognized the subtext immediately. This wasn't about academic rigor. This was about making people uncomfortable. Her research threatened established systems, and institutions rarely welcome such challenges. At home, the impact was equally complex. Her children became unintentional observers of their mother's growing challenge. Zara, perceptive beyond her years, noticed the tension. "Are you in trouble, Mom?" she asked one evening, helping prepare dinner. Jasmine smiled, choosing her words carefully. "I'm doing important work. Sometimes important work makes people uncomfortable." Her son Marcus seemed simultaneously worried and impressed. He'd inherited his mother's analytical mind, understanding the deeper implications of her research. Late-night conversations revealed his growing awareness of systemic challenges. Professional networks began to shift. Invitations to collaborative research projects became less frequent. Conference presentation opportunities dried up. The academic community's unspoken messages were clear. Challenging the system came with consequences. Financial pressure mounted. The original traffic fine, combined with legal consultations and research expenses, created unexpected strain. Jasmine's careful financial planning was being tested in ways she hadn't anticipated. Her brother Marcus became more than just a legal advisor. He was a strategic partner, helping her navigate the complex landscape of institutional resistance. "They'll try to isolate you," Marcus warned during one of their strategy sessions, "make you feel like you're alone in this fight." But Jasmine was anything but alone. The local justice collaborative provided unexpected support. Community activists, researchers, and legal professionals began to see her work as more than just a personal investigation. It was becoming a potential blueprint for systemic change. Dr. David Thompson from the sociology department became a crucial ally. "Your methodology is impeccable," he told her during a private meeting. "That's what makes this research so powerful. It's not emotional, it's factual." The university's reaction was mixed. Some colleagues avoided eye contact, while others quietly offered support through hushed conversations and supportive emails. Jasmine's academic training had prepared her for intellectual challenges, but this was different. This was a challenge to deeply ingrained institutional systems. Each document she uncovered, each pattern she revealed, was a quiet act of professional courage. Her children watched and learned. Zara began asking more questions about fairness, about systems of power. Marcus developed a growing interest in social justice and legal structures. The personal toll was significant. Sleepless nights, increased stress, moments of self-doubt balanced against an unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth. But Jasmine Reynolds was not someone who backed down easily. Each challenge only strengthened her resolve. What had begun as a simple traffic ticket investigation was transforming into something much larger, a comprehensive examination of institutional bias. The fight was just beginning, and she was ready. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Margaret Collins, a retired court administrative assistant with 30 years of experience, reached out through a confidential email late one Thursday evening. Her message was cryptic, but loaded with potential. Some stories need witnesses. Some truths need voices. Jasmine's hands trembled slightly as she read the email. Margaret had worked directly in the municipal court's administrative offices during the past 2 decades, witnessing countless judicial proceedings from behind the scenes. Their first meeting happened in a small, quiet cafe tucked away from the university district. Margaret arrived precisely at 10 a.m., a meticulously organized folder tucked under her arm. Her steel-gray hair and sharp eyes spoke of someone who had seen far more than she'd ever publicly shared. "I've watched systems work in ways most people never understand," Margaret began, her voice low and controlled. She spread several documents across the table: internal memos, correspondence, subtle communication trails that revealed intricate patterns of judicial discretion. The documents were a goldmine. They revealed an unwritten system of fine allocation that went far beyond official guidelines. Subtle directives, informal communications, and strategic notations demonstrated how judicial discretion could be manipulated. Marcus joined their subsequent meetings, his legal expertise complementing Jasmine's research methodology. Together, they began to map out a comprehensive narrative that was far more than a simple traffic ticket challenge. Margaret's insider knowledge provided crucial context. "It's never about a single action," she explained. "It's about 1,000 small decisions that create a larger pattern." The research expanded beyond traffic violations. They began documenting patterns across multiple judicial domains: minor infractions, sentencing recommendations, bail determinations. Each dataset revealed similar underlying structures. Jasmine's academic training proved invaluable. She approached the investigation like a complex literary analysis, reading between the lines, understanding the narrative structures hidden within bureaucratic language. Local advocacy groups began to take notice. The Legal Equity Project expressed interest in her comprehensive documentation. What had started as a personal investigation was transforming into a potential catalyst for systemic review. Her university department remained cautiously distant. Dr. Thompson, her strongest academic supporter, provided guidance while maintaining professional boundaries. "Be prepared," he warned. "Challenging institutional systems is never easy." The financial strain continued. Legal consultations, research expenses, and the ongoing challenge to the original traffic fine created significant pressure. But Jasmine remained committed, viewing each challenge as another opportunity to uncover truth. Her children became inadvertent supporters. Zara helped organize digital files with her emerging technological skills. Marcus provided emotional support, understanding the broader implications of his mother's work. As the documentation grew, so did the potential for meaningful change. Margaret's insider information, combined with Jasmine's meticulous research, created a comprehensive picture of systemic inconsistencies. "We're not just fighting a ticket," Marcus reminded her during one late-night strategy session. "We're challenging an entire system of unwritten rules." The breakthrough felt both overwhelming and exhilarating. Jasmine Reynolds had transformed from a frustrated defendant to a comprehensive researcher, uncovering patterns that most people never noticed. Her research was becoming more than a personal challenge. It was becoming a potential blueprint for institutional reflection and change. The fight was far from over. But for the first time, Jasmine felt they had irrefutable evidence. The first media interview happened unexpectedly. Lisa Garrett, an investigative journalist from the local news network, had been tracking systemic judicial inconsistencies for years. When she learned about Jasmine's comprehensive research, her professional interest was immediately piqued. "This isn't just about a traffic ticket," Lisa explained during their initial meeting. "This is about understanding how institutional systems actually operate." The story broke on a Tuesday morning. The headline read, "Professor uncovers systemic patterns in local judicial proceedings." What had been a personal investigation was now a public conversation. Community meetings began to fill local community centers. Residents who had long suspected unfair treatment but lacked concrete evidence now found a voice. Marcus helped organize these gatherings, transforming academic research into actionable community dialogue. Local politicians began to take notice. Councilwoman Rebecca Torres requested a comprehensive review of judicial fine structures. "We need transparency," she declared during a city council meeting, directly referencing Jasmine's research. The university initially maintained a cautious distance, but as media attention grew, Dr. Thompson became a vocal supporter. "This is precisely what academic research should do," he told reporters. "Challenge existing systems, provide evidence, create dialogue." Jasmine found herself at the center of a movement she never anticipated. Speaking engagements replaced her usual academic lectures. Law schools, sociology departments, and community organizations requested her insights. Her children watched with a mix of pride and apprehension. Zara began asking more profound questions about justice and institutional structures. Marcus developed a growing interest in legal and social systems. The research touched more than just local systems. Similar investigations began in neighboring counties, inspired by Jasmine's methodical approach. What had started as a personal challenge was becoming a broader examination of judicial discretion. Support came from unexpected sources. Other professionals who had experienced similar challenges began sharing their stories. A network of individuals who had long felt unheard found a collective voice. Legal professionals started using her research as a reference point. Law students analyzed her methodology, understanding how comprehensive documentation could challenge systemic inconsistencies. The original traffic ticket, the spark that started everything, seemed almost insignificant now. Jasmine had transformed a personal frustration into a comprehensive exploration of institutional practices. Community workshops began exploring the research findings. Marcus helped develop educational programs that taught people how to document and challenge systemic inconsistencies. Local colleges incorporated the research into sociology and legal studies curricula. Jasmine remained committed to the original goal, not revenge, but understanding. "This isn't about blame," she often told audiences. "This is about creating transparent, fair systems that work for everyone." The financial strain continued, but support networks helped. The local Justice Collaborative provided resources. Anonymous donors supported her continued research. Each contribution felt like a collective commitment to understanding institutional dynamics. Her brother Marcus remained her strongest supporter. "You're doing something important," he would remind her during challenging moments. "You're creating a blueprint for change." As public dialogue expanded, the potential for meaningful institutional reflection grew. Jasmine Reynolds had become more than a researcher. She was a catalyst for systemic understanding. The conversation was just beginning, and she was ready to continue driving meaningful dialogue. 3 years had passed since that fateful traffic ticket. The municipal courthouse looked different now, not just in its physical structure, but in its entire operational approach. Mandatory training programs for judicial staff now included comprehensive modules on bias recognition and fair adjudication. The research Jasmine had meticulously compiled became a cornerstone of these educational initiatives. Judge Robert Hartley had retired, replaced by a more diverse and systematically accountable judicial team. The very system that had once seemed immovable had begun to reshape itself, one policy at a time. Jasmine's academic career had transformed. What was once a straightforward literature professorship had expanded into a groundbreaking interdisciplinary research position. The university created a new department focused on institutional analysis and social systems, with her at its helm. Her children had been profoundly influenced by her journey. Zara, now 15, had developed a passionate interest in data analysis and social justice. Marcus was exploring pre-law programs, inspired by his mother's methodical approach to challenging systemic inequities. The original legal challenge had resulted in significant changes. The municipal court implemented a comprehensive review system for traffic violations. Fine structures were overhauled, with clear guidelines that reduced discretionary inconsistencies. Local advocacy groups celebrated the transformation. The Legal Equity Project honored Jasmine with their annual Changemaker Award, recognizing her contribution to institutional transparency. During her acceptance speech, Jasmine reflected on the journey. This was never about a single ticket, she told the audience. This was about understanding how small decisions create larger patterns of inequality. Her brother Marcus stood in the audience, pride evident in his eyes. The family that had supported her through every challenging moment now witnessed the broader impact of her persistence. The research had expanded beyond the local jurisdiction. Academic institutions across the state began using her methodology as a template for examining institutional practices. Law schools incorporated her findings into curriculum discussions about judicial discretion and systemic fairness. Financial compensation for her original ticket challenge came in an unexpected form. The municipal court not only rescinded the original fine but established a scholarship fund for students pursuing research in institutional equity. Dr. David Thompson, her original academic supporter, had become a close collaborator. Together, they continued to push boundaries, exploring how systemic understanding could create meaningful change. Margaret Collins, the retired court administrative assistant who had provided crucial initial evidence, became a mentor to young researchers. Her insider knowledge, combined with Jasmine's academic approach, created a powerful narrative of institutional transformation. The personal toll had been significant. Sleepless nights, professional challenges, financial strain, all had been part of the journey. But standing here, witnessing the tangible changes, Jasmine understood the true meaning of persistent effort. Her children understood something profound. One person, armed with research, documentation, and unwavering determination, could create meaningful change. As the award ceremony concluded, Jasmine looked at her family. This wasn't just her victory. This was a collective triumph of persistence, intelligence, and belief in systemic fairness. The traffic ticket that had started everything now seemed like a distant memory. What remained was hope, a carefully documented, meticulously researched hope for a more just future.